Welcome to the Fit Dads Podcast. If you're thinking about doing a Hyrox, specifically a doubles or mixed doubles, well, you've hit the right podcast, because today, over the next hour, we're going to fill you in on everything you need to know as we give you our ultimate breakdown of everything you need to expect on a Hyrox doubles. This includes training tactics, it includes specific rules for the doubles, travelling logistics, what to expect on the day, and other things we think you might need to know about a Hyrox doubles. I'm joined with the usual suspect, Mr. Brad Thompson, and the man, the myth, the legend, Mr. Dan Smith, fresh off the Hyrox doubles. We did our first one together.
We did.
How you feeling?
Tired.
Yeah.
Not as achy and sore as I thought I was going to after giving the first two that I'd done, but more just tired. But then we did have a long drive there and back as well.
Oh, longer on the way back, I think, wasn't it?
It was.
Yeah. Same. I've been absolutely knackered, mate. I just told you I'm not a napper at all, but yesterday my hand was forced and I've got a good 90 minutes in there, messed my sleep schedule up. Now I'm tired again today.
Yeah.
It's a vicious cycle, isn't it, that stuff? But I'm just in awe of people who can do them back to back. Like people do a singles and they go and do a doubles the day after. I have no idea. My legs still don't work. I'm this 2 days later.
I sort of think they do it. They're doing one for a time and the other one they're doing for fun or because a mate wants to do it with them sort of thing, because there's no way you're doing two for time. I think
they're very well versed as well. Like they've probably just done 10, 15, 20 of these now, and we've got 3 under our belt, 2 singles and a double.
Yeah.
We've done a bit of a brief breakdown, haven't we, previously, of the singles one we did. This one is all focused on the doubles and mixed doubles and what to expect on that. So I guess the first thing is the categories. There are 3 different categories when it comes to the doubles events. First one is the men's doubles and females doubles. This is essentially the same gender pairs, and the weights will be men's open weights for the men and women's open weights for the women. Second category is the mixed doubles. This is mixed gender, men and women, and the men's open weights will be what they both use, isn't it? So the women have to be able to push the men's weights, essentially. The third one is toughest of the lot. It's the pro men's and pro women's. This is same gender pairs, but they use the pro weights for the men's and the pro weights for the women's. What I didn't realise, actually, there's not a pro mixed, is there?
No, there isn't, actually.
I did have a look to double check online, but there's not a pro mixed, because that will mean the women have to use the men's pro weights.
Yeah.
I'm sure there's some women out there that could, but there's no category for that just yet.
No, I think that's a big ask.
It is.
That is a big ask.
For sure. Anything that you think from the weekend, straight off the bat, was worth highlighting?
I think the way the events are run, they run like clockwork. You know where you need to be, the timings are set and everything. So it's just easy once you get there. Really, if you go in, have a quick walk around, you can get the lay of the land, because they're pretty similar. The event maps are put out beforehand, so you've got a view. But you get in there, you know what your times are, and it's easy. They're just really well run events, really.
Concur. I think they're so well organised, aren't they?
Yeah.
I'm not sure if they get like event companies in to try and manage it and set it all up, but they've obviously got it literally nailed down. But how many of these have they been doing now? Every month across the world for the past, how long has it been going now, Hyrox?
2017, I think it started.
Was it? Yeah. So, pushing nearly 8-9 years now.
And they do multiple at a weekend as well in different cities around the world. So they've got the experience of doing it.
Yeah, for sure. But it's very well organised. There's not massive amounts of queuing for stuff. The trickiest bit, I think, is for spectators, probably getting in and out of the arenas and moving around a little bit, because it can get quite busy.
Yeah.
Depending on where you are geographically and in which location, the course can change a little bit, can't it? That's something to bear in mind. Definitely get well versed with what's happening on the track and when you need to come out, when you need to come in, how many laps of the track you do, because that can vary. And then obviously there's different tactics for doubles than there is for singles, and we're going to go into that a little bit more. We had our own little tactics that I think worked pretty well, to be fair. We had to adapt them based on how we were feeling, but we're going to go over quite a few different things. Probably the first thing I want to start with is preparation for a doubles. The first question I've got for you is, do you think people need to train together when it comes to a doubles event?
Yes and no. I think you need to be solid in all the Hyrox exercises yourself. You need to be solid in your running yourself. I think you do need a level of training together, and if not the training, you need to know each other. You need to know how you can talk to each other. You need to know if you say something, how the other person's, or a good idea, how they're going to react. And
strengths and weaknesses as well.
Yeah, I mean, we'll get on to it. At one point, I said to you, "Can you keep going?" And you just looked at me and said, "No."
Yeah.
We'll cover that in a bit. But it was like, and I was just like, right, fine, man up, Dan, get on with it, sort of thing, because you've just got to work. But I think in terms of like the transitions, so like how you're going to transition the bag on the lunges, how you're going to swap over on a farmer's carry, how you're going to do your burpees, because there is a particular way I would suggest of approaching the transition of the burpees, which we did.
Yeah.
And then just to make life that little bit easier, you need a bit of time to spend together to run through those to get them efficient. If you're going for a time, if you're just going for a bit of fun and to say you've done a Hyrox, it's probably not quite as important. But if you're pushing like we were, then you definitely need, I'd say, at least 2 to 3 sessions together just to fine tune and tweak and play around with, right, what's the fastest way for us to ski erg? Is it 125 each, 250 each, 500 each? We did that. Again, similar on the rower. What's the right you want, because it's a bit longer to transition off between each other on a rower, so what's the quickest way to get through that? But also understanding out of the two of you who is the stronger runner, and who is stronger at which of the exercises. Mainly because you don't want someone blowing themselves out on an exercise to then going out and do the run if they're the weaker runner, sort of thing. And we covered that within our discussions and planning for it all as well.
Yeah, agreed.
So in short, yes, but you're probably not as much training together as some. You don't need to do absolutely everything together. It's just the key aspects, so you know what you're going to do.
And that's exactly what we did, isn't it? Like, we kind of had this idea that we were going to do like 1 session a week, and it was going to be a big, Hyrox style session, and we just batter each other basically. But the fundamentals are, you as an individual need to know that you can go and do the full race. That is the fundamentals of it. And I think, obviously, being two busy dads, working dads, like, logistically, some weeks it just doesn't marry up, unfortunately. No. But you still need to get those sessions done, so you're going to have to go in your own time and get it kind of cracked on with. I agree in the fact that you do need to work out what is best on the ergs. I think the ergs is the trickiest thing, because some people are good over 250 metres. Yeah. Some people are better over 500 metres. We decided to do some funny splits, didn't we? So we actually tested out different kind of kilometres. So we did a 500 each on the ski erg. Yeah. And we did a 250 twice. Yeah. And we found the 250 twice works much better. Yeah. But the changeover on a ski erg is really easy. You just step back, someone else grabs the handles and cracks on. Yeah. On the rowing machine, it's a bit more of a logistical thing where you have to sit down, get your feet strapped in, and that, someone taking the feet out, getting up, someone strapping the feet in, it's more of a layover time. So we found that splitting it into thirds was going to be our best approach. And
I think we also went for the thirds because we know that after burpees, I'm going to be on my arse a little bit. You're a slightly stronger runner than me. I say slightly as an understatement. But so knowing that coming off the back of that run, we're now halfway through. You were going to row first, then I was going to row, and then it was you just to give me my legs that minute before we then get in and get ready for a farmer's carry.
When I was getting towards the back end of my first stint on the rower, so we split into thirds. I'd do 3:30, you do 3:30, I do 3:30. As we were getting to the back end, I'd given pretty much everything to that 3:30, and then I just hear a little whisper in my ear from behind, "Can you carry on?" I was like, "Oh, Dan, I wish you'd asked me at the start."
I think to explain at that, I went very hard on I love a sled push. I went very hard on the sled push, blew my legs up, got my heart rate up. And I was struck because of the pace, and we'll cover this. I was struggling to get my heart rate down. So from the sled push up until that row, I was feeling rough. I just stuck with it, just kept going. But I was stood on the row, and that's the first time where I'd really had to just stand somewhere. And I was actually started looking round for a bin, because I thought it's coming up, sort of thing. That was why I sort of said, right, can you just keep going here, because I need a minute. And he just looked at me, and the expression on his face was not a chance. So it's like, right, okay. So, but I knew from where he was, I had about another minute, so I just sort of really focused on centering myself, and then just got in. But what I would say with the row is, you can get a nice pace going on a row. You don't have to go hell for leather on a row. You don't need to kill yourself, because if you do, the amount of effort you're putting into it doesn't actually make you go that much faster on a rower. Yeah, so it's more about that, getting a really good pull on the erg. So doing that and focusing on just getting a good pull, a good pace, and just maintaining at a decent rate, so it didn't have cost us too much time, worked for me. And then I knew I had another slight rest at the end before we got out. And from that point on, then I was actually all right. I'd recovered. I managed to sort of recover it, and we were away.
To give a bit of context, everyone, Dan is my client. So we did our first doubles event together, and you've been with me over 2 years now.
Yeah, 2 years.
And we've done a podcast previously where we've talked about your whole journey, and I think we've just done our first singles at that point, haven't we?
We just got the tickets for it.
Had we? We haven't done it yet.
No, we hadn't done it. We got the tickets for it, I think.
Okay. So we've done, since that last one, 2 singles each, and we've done obviously our first doubles. And you know, I've put a bit of a gushy post out over on social media, but it's just been awesome to watch this man's kind of development over the past 2 years. And I think that the biggest thing coming into this doubles event was, could you keep up with me on the running? Because generally my singles times are a little bit quicker, and I think a lot of that is down to the running more than anything else. The events themselves are pretty similar, aren't they? It's not too much difference.
We always sort of got it here, but we went through the numbers. Every time we've done one, we've gone through the numbers afterwards and sat down and done the post-mortem of, right, where were we, each of us out on the different... And we were generally pretty close. There's a couple where it's just brute strength really helps, so you just annihilate me on those. But for the majority of it, it is the running where you're that bit faster, and a lot of your time comes from.
And I think the running was the one thing where we said, right, if you can stick with me, we can get a pretty incredible time in it. Our initial goal was, can we go sub 110?
Yeah.
Now that would require Dan to have knocked over 30 minutes, I think it was. If we go from where you were on your second one to getting below sub 10, it was which is basically 90 seconds on everything quicker, isn't it?
Yeah.
Like 90 seconds on every exercise, 90 seconds on every run. That was such a big ask. And leading into it, that was the biggest question. Could you keep up? And I think for anyone thinking about doing a doubles event, you have to kind of ask yourself the question, who is the better runner? Because that's the person who's going to be out in front pacing.
Yeah.
The running's 50% of it, so you've got to have someone who's pretty good at this and sets the standard. But yeah, I think, do you need to train together? Coming back to the original question, I think the erg work is important. Definitely have at least one session on that. Yeah. But I think in short, no. I don't think you have to train together. I really don't. I think you can go pretty much most of it doing your own thing.
Yeah.
And then have some kind of tactics, which we'll obviously talk about as well, so that you know what you're doing. A lot of it is just communication on the track, and it's a tactic in mind for every exercise and every run.
Yeah.
I suppose an observation of mine were going to be, from listening to both of your tactics, is that concise communication as well.
Yeah.
Like Dan just saying very few words, saying, can you carry on? And you just communicating with a look.
Yeah. I don't think you actually said anything either. No. I think you just sort of looked at me and the look was just no.
Well, I had to say something because you were behind me, so I couldn't see you on the rower. But I can't remember what I said, but I was like, I think it was just something to the extent of, I need a fucking minute, mate. Do you know what I mean? Just give me one stint of 300 and I'll crack on again.
Yeah. But then like with the burpees and the lunges and stuff, you just sort of, the one that's not working is effectively has to walk behind. And you're just there going, right, so I think we'd got into the burpees, it probably took you 5 or 6 of your burpees, and then I was recovered enough that I could go. And it was like, right, Ryan, when you need to stop, or when you're ready to stop, give me the signal and I'm good to go sort of thing. And he's just saying, I am ready. And we did discuss that sort of like a 0 to 10 scale as we're going, where 10 is I am on my arse and I'm struggling, I'm going to struggle to keep going, and 0 is, we're fresh as a daisy sort of thing. So every so often it was just where are you? And it was just like, this is, and we each knew that as soon as we heard the number, you know where the other person's at and what you need to do.
Helped out a lot, that, because I remember as soon as you reached a 6 at one point, you went, right, I'm at 6.
Yeah.
Okay, we're getting to that point now. We're kind of starting to get into this a little bit. And, the most, I'll say it now because I wanted to kind of get this on the podcast at some point, but I was obviously, there was a bit more pressure on Dan to keep up. But then there's also pressure on me to kind of keep pacing and keep going and not giving. And I definitely paced you and pushed you a lot, didn't I? In the first kind of like middle section, I would say. You set off really well. Like we set off together, exceeded my expectations. Middle of the kind of race, things started to slow down a little bit. We had that conversation about where you were in terms of the scale. And I could see it was a game of, right, Dan's got to get his head down and just keep with me now. Keep with me.
Yeah.
And I took a little bit more of the burden on some of the exercises, not massive amounts, but like the burpees, I think maybe a bit more the walking lunges, did a bit more the sled push, so it's the sled pull, and then the rowing machine.
That was it. I remember just as we were coming in for that run on the sled pull, I was like, Ryan, you need to take the first 2 pulls, because what we had planned is that I would come in, take the first, do the first pull, and then Ryan would take second, I'd do third, and then I've had that little break before we got onto the run, being the weaker runner. But I was coming in and having gone because like, without being silly, our sled push time was 1 minute 25, and that includes going into the activity and back out of it over the timing. So our sled push was probably around a minute, really, when you sort of add in the in and out time. So I was, my heart rate had skyrocketed, and then you're straight out in the run, and I'm doing everything I can to stick with him as well on the run as he's pacing me through. As we were coming in, I was like, you need to take the first two lengths here, because I'm not going to be a lot of use, sort of thing. So Ryan got in there, as he does, starts yanking through. I then did the third length, and then Ryan's looking at me. I was like, no, you need to go again.
I assumed he wanted to do 2 of me and then 2 for him.
Yeah.
But what I didn't realise is he wanted to do 2 for me, 1 for him, and 1 for me again. But it was no issue. My biggest concern with the sled pull is always, because our technique was just grip and rip, basically, wasn't it? Like, stand where you are and just reel it in. We didn't want to be using any legs. We didn't want to be walking. It's very, it's highly inefficient. I think it's a bit of a missed moment for a lot of people in terms of bringing the time down. I think that a lot of people just need to learn how to grab that rope, stand still, and reel it in. If you can't do that, you're going to miss so much time.
I think for open weights, I think pro weights might be a little bit more challenging.
But we've done what have we done? What's the pro weight on a sled pull?
Pro weight's 150.
We've done 180.
Yeah,
we've done 180 for 150 meters on a sled pull. And that ain't quick.
No.
We've had some breaks in between, but we can do it.
Yeah.
And I think if we really challenged ourselves, and we will be challenging ourselves in about 6 weeks' time in London, because we have signed up to the pros now. But it'll be a good test, that. And I would like to be able to do the same. I'd like to be able to stand there, grab that rope, and reel it in. That's the ultimate goal.
I think I'd say, because the sled pull is probably, out of all the exercises, the one that messed my head up the most when I did it the first time. So we trained at station, and I'd trained with the rope there that has no give in it. So the second I went down at Birmingham, I went to grab the rope, and it's quite elastic, and I just fell backwards. And that just mentally at that point, because you're already fatigued now, it just threw me, and I'm like, what the hell? And I couldn't get my head right, and that did mess me up. We then went and trained a few times at a gym that's got all the Hyrox kit and the ropes and everything, so I was able to get that down. And that did happen again in Manchester, but because I've been through it, it's like, right, no, this is what I've done wrong, let's just crack on again. But at that point, I still struggled just to reel it in. And then in the last, basically between, back end of January and this weekend just gone, was a real, I think I had about 3 or 4 sessions of just literally pulling in a sled, because it's like, I'm going to get to the point where I can just pull this in now, because it is quicker and more efficient. You're not stepping back, you're not trying to manage a rope out of the way and all the rest of it. Yeah,
we call it super training. I can't stress enough how important, like, doing the weight, but with a kind of a lot more distance and a lot more weight on there it's really so important, because it just makes it so much smoother. The first time we did the singles in Birmingham, that sled push and pull was horrible. Such a horrible thing to have so early on. Destroyed me almost. I know it was a doubles, and I know we did kind of almost 50% of the work, but it felt so much easier. That sled push, I knew straight away. As soon as I got going, I was just moving it like I've never moved it before. And it's, it's because you've done so much more in your training. Look, we've been training for this for about a year now, haven't we? Over a year, maybe. Yeah. So I think that you have to get those miles under your belt a little bit, but it's an essential part of the training, the super stuff.
Yeah, definitely.
So in terms of running, what do you think is the minimum amount someone should be able to run in order to do Hyrox?
I need to be able to at least do a 10k. Really, you need to be able to, it's from an endurance perspective. I mean, for most people, they say sort of the average Hyrox time is at an hour and a half. So realistically, you're sort of looking at like a half marathon distance there, just from an endurance perspective. But if you can run a 10k and you can do the exercises, you can get through a Hyrox.
Yeah, I'd say obviously, of course, the minimum is 8k, because that's what you did on the day. But I actually don't think there's any limit to what you should do in your preparation, really. Don't go silly. Don't go doing like a half marathon or something like that. But if you want to go up to 15, 16, maybe even 18k, it's not a bad thing because you're running for that amount of time. And one thing I've always felt towards the back end of the runs is the endurance in my legs just goes. And it's arguable that something like an 8k or a 10k run might not even be able to replicate how you feel in that moment. Like it's so taxing. I think from a speed point of view, what would you say was the kind of advice there?
Track and hill sprints, which is effectively what we did. So 400 meter sprints, 800 meter sprints around a track, with a decent recovery time between those sprints as well, and then hill sprints, just slowly building up over time, the length that you're actually sprinting for up that hill, from sort of starting off at maybe 10, 15 seconds and just building it up to being able to sprint up a hill for a minute. Yeah, you might be blowing out your ass by the time you get to the top and your heart rate will be up, but that's just going to build the resilience and improve your recovery.
Yeah.
And that's what I think that's one of the biggest things that you sort of need out of that is you need to be able to get your heart rate up, but you need to be able to get it back down quick as well.
It's a bit of a strength and conditioning cliche, which is train fast, get fast.
Yeah.
And if all you're doing is steady pace, and then you go to a Hyrox maybe and you try for speed, you've not been training for speed. No. So I love that advice.
You've hit the nail on the head there. That's exactly what I felt the past 2 times I'd done the single stuff. My body just wasn't used to moving quick over a kilometre. It wasn't. Anytime I do a kilometre only, it would be in like a Hyrox style situation where I was doing other things with it in that same session. One of our biggest assets this time around training for the doubles was, can we get speed under our belt? So pretty much every week, maybe bar a couple, we had a track session in there, just looking at 400s, 5 400s, quick as you can. Not too concerned about rest in between, but you get 3 400s under your belt at full pelt, your legs are going to be in a little bit of a pickle. But it gets everything used to moving faster. The length of your stride gets quicker, your elasticity in your muscles gets a little bit sharper. You actually start working areas of your legs that just don't get worked when you do the longer runs. And I was hurting in places that I've never even hurt when I've done like mad leg sessions and countless leg extensions and curls and all sorts. My groins, especially, and hips were really in a pickle.
Yeah, I used to do quite a bit of athletics, and then 400, 800 distance, it's a horrible distance.
Yeah.
I mean, if there is somebody listening who's maybe never tried that track stuff, where did you guys do the track work in Sheffield?
Where did we do it? We did it at the Sheffield Hallam track over in Woodburn Road, isn't it?
Woodburn Road.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah,
cool. It's a really good facility, and I think if you're you can turn up as a member of the general public. It's on the website in terms of when they're open. I think it's normally from like 4:00 most days. I think they're open till about 9 for the public. Yeah, and it's a £5 to go and use the facilities. So
free on your first go as well.
Yeah,
cool.
It is really good.
That's good to know.
Yeah,
and you can just rock up and use it whenever most of the time.
From a training preparation point of view, anything else that you think is worth adding in terms of advice?
I think I'd reiterate the super training, but not just in terms of the weights on things and the distances in terms of like the sleds. It's like go and do burpees, but do 3 sets of 80 meters of burpees sort of thing. Go and do more of everything. If you're doing for the farmer's carry, use a heavier kettlebell like most of the time, primarily because I think Station's only got 124 kilo kettlebell for some reason that I can find. We're doing it with the pro weight 32 kilo kettlebells for the farmer's carry there, but it's just do everything. Like all my walking lunges now, regardless, are done with a 30 kilo sandbag.
Yeah.
So it's just do everything for heavier and longer than you think you're going to need to.
We almost broke the exercises down into like single set stuff, didn't we?
Yeah.
So we do like 3 sets of what was required. So you've got to do 80 metres of burpee broad jumps. Well, we're going to do 3 sets of 80 metres of burpee broad jumps. There's a little bit of rest in between, but you're getting those under your belt consecutively. You don't have to do them back to back. There can be a bit of rest in between.
Yeah.
And same with every exercise. That was one of our biggest approaches and changes.
I think it's working out what's the most efficient way for you to do each exercise, because everybody's different. And the most efficient way for Ryan to get through a burpee is different for me in terms of the speed. And you also got the trade-off of you can do things fast, but can you maintain that all the way through and then go out and run? That's the biggest thing. You've got to train yourself to say, right, how am I going to get through these 80? What's the pace for me to get through this 80 metres of burpees and then go and run? Especially in the singles. But in a doubles, it's slightly different. I mean, you may have rests in the things, and this is one of the things we sort of talked about, is 80 metres of burpees, 80 metres of burpees, 80 metres of burpees. 80 metres of burpees, 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 80 within the doubles, the pace of everything is completely different to singles, because in singles it's like you might push the sled halfway along, go, right, I'm going to have a 5 count and go again. And it's like, right, okay, now I've got to the end, I'll have a 5 count and go again. And you're managing your rest and your breaks. And then suddenly I come off it, you're on it, and it's like I've taken 4 breaths and I'm back in it again, because that pace is, and it's me to go. It's me. So it's what you think you might need as a rest is probably not what you're going to get when you're doing a doubles, because your partner will do their work a lot quicker than you might rest for.
Yeah,
that's something.
Some exercises are like that, but I think don't underestimate how long that rest is on a singles.
Yeah,
we think it's a 5 count in our head. It's not.
No. Oh no. I mean,
it's 20, not, 30 seconds.
That's what I mean. You're probably resting a lot longer on a singles than you will get in a doubles, but in a singles, it's that motivation of making yourself go again. Where in a doubles, it's like, you finished, it's my turn. I don't get a choice to stand here for another 30 seconds and catch my breath. I've got to get back into it.
Yeah.
Did you ever feel that fear of almost letting each other down if you're like, I just need a minute, or I have to go now? Were there ever any hesitancy?
We had the conversation beforehand, which I think was really important. You put that into the blog a bit. He gave me a bit of a pep talk, but the conversation we had was, the first win is that we're here. That's number one. The second thing is, we are a team. It's not me and Ryan doing it, it's we are a team doing it. And whatever the right thing for the team is the decision that we need to make. So when I looked at him on the row and went, can you go longer? That was me saying, I don't know how I'm going to do. His look was, no, Dan, you need to get on with this, which was fine. And that's right, okay, so I just need to suck this up and get on with it for the team, sort of thing. And I think that's how we looked at it a lot. It was like, what is the right decision for us as a team, not for each of us as individuals within doing a Hyrox sort of thing.
Yeah. I think it depends on your partner. Like, there's going to be so many people who are doing a doubles listening to this, and they'll either be in one or two camps. They've chosen their partner because they feel like they're on a similar ability.
Yeah.
Or they're doing it with someone who is going to push them. That's the kind of the two camps you generally tend to fall into. For us, there was a slight difference in ability, just really on the running. That was it, I guess. But yeah, the pep talk was needed, but it was also like something I wanted to highlight. Like, my biggest win as your coach was just having you by my side. It's a crazy thing we call Hyrox. One of the hardest things I think most people can do. It's that was my biggest win. To know where you were 2 years ago when you walked through the door, to see you on that starting pen by my side, that was my biggest win of the day. Would I have loved to have got the time we wanted? Yes. Did we absolutely smash that time out of the park? Yeah, we did. We beat it by almost 5 minutes. And that still, now I can't quite get my head around how we did that. But it just shows the level of determination you showed more than anything else.
I think it was on the runs. It was in my head, on those runs, it was like, Ryan's going to be ahead of me. I know that. I've just got to stay as close as I can. The biggest challenge was the track at Glasgow was quite narrow, and there were a lot of people out there. So there was a lot of weaving in and trying to jump around, and no one paid attention to the fast lane and all that sort of stuff. So there was times where I was dropping back from him because I was just stuck in traffic, basically. And then it was like, right, I just need to get through and catch him. But your legs are bollocks, so catching is easier said than done. So the mentality for me was, I just need to be able to see him, and and as long as I can see him, then I know that I'm close enough. If he's starting to go around, so I think there was 2 runs where you slowed down ever so slightly just to allow me to catch up because I'd got stuck and stuff.
Yeah, there was.
But I think other than that, I managed to stay probably within the sort of 30-40 metres of you for most of it. I think the one of the things we sort of looked at, and there isn't actually, they don't tell you what the time frame is, but it just says you've got to enter sort of everything together. Now, you don't have to enter everything together, but I'm not sure quite how close you actually have to be before you get a 3-minute penalty.
Oh, wow.
So if you enter too far apart, you'll get through. The other one was that we didn't realise until we got to, because we were pretty much together every time we went into an exercise, was on the wall balls, because we'd actually seen somebody and he'd just been stood there with the ball waiting for his partner to come. And it was like, we were like, well, that's passive aggressive, isn't it, sort of thing, just stood there waiting. Turns out you're not actually allowed to start your wall balls until your partner stood in front of you.
Oh, right.
Which was an interesting, but we didn't know that until we actually got in. And started doing it. So
until you beat me in there.
I wasn't going to say that. I was going to let you say that.
Dan was the guy with the ball in his hand. Just tapping his watch.
Well, speaking of rules and regs, I think it's probably important that we go over those, because I've got quite a few notes here, and I think this is just hopefully going to fill in a lot of questions for people because, you know, no one likes sifting through every kind of inch of the rule book. But here's kind of the main things. So, of course, in a doubles and mixed doubles, you have to run the 8 kilometres together. There's no rules on how much each competitor has to do during the exercises. One person, for example, could do the whole lot if they wanted, while the other person has a nice big rest. We found our own strategies, obviously, which we'll probably go over in a little bit more detail shortly. You mentioned obviously sticking together during the race. That's really important. One person can run off a little bit if they want to, but there is a certain time frame where you do and kind of start getting penalties if there's too much distance between one person entering an exercise and another one coming in after. The really tricky thing with that is they don't actually give you the time frame, which I do think is a bit naughty of them, because like how different can it be? I mean, the guy we were sat watching on the wall balls, he came in, he must have been at least a minute ahead of his friend before his friend come stumbling in and looked a little bit worse for wear. And they basically say that it messes up the tracking system. That was their reason in the rule book, wasn't it? It can mess up the tracking system. So just be aware of that. Basically, don't go, leaving your mate behind. If
don't start lapping him.
If you can avoid it. The exercises. So it's also worth noting that you can't start, as you said, the exercise until your partner's there. And that's not just on the wall ball, but that's on everything. There was a time when I came into the sled push, I think it was, and she was like, you can't go until he gets here. And you were going anyway. But I think from a tactic point of view, I think it's probably best if whoever gets there first goes anyway, because you're going to waste some time. I didn't really realise that, but I just stuck to the game plan for us when we first started. Ski erg, I guess the only real rule for that is you just have to stand behind the person. You can split up however you want, whatever's more efficient. Again, go over that in your training. Sled push, you have to, again, stand behind the person and follow them up and down the track as they push. You aren't allowed to interfere in any way, shape or form. That includes kind of, pushing them a little bit on the back or anything like that.
A couple of bump slaps.
That's it. Whatever floats your boat, man.
Taking motivation. Like, hurry up, come on.
Sled pull, only one person is allowed to stand in between the boxes, and the other person isn't again allowed to interfere at all with the rope, because you can imagine at some point there's like 2 people pulling the rope. You're not even allowed to move it out of the way for them. You're not allowed to do anything until that person's put the rope down, and then you step into the box and have your go. Burpees, the standard rules apply here. The biggest one to know, I think, is the changeover. So when you take over from your partner, you must stand alongside them. Your hands must go in line with their feet. You jump back from where they jumped forwards, and then obviously you crack on and pick up where they left off, essentially. It just stops people kind of, I guess, getting a few extra inches here and there, which you can imagine people do. I mean, you see all sorts of videos online nowadays of people breaking I think burpees is the one where I see the rules broken probably the most. But it is also one of the hardest, so I don't blame people if you get away with it.
But I think that was one of the things we discussed while we're on the burpees, was change over after the jump, because when you change over, the person that's coming in has to start by going down to do the burpee, coming back up and then jumping. So if Ryan had done his and then stood up and then I'd gone, I'd have to go down and do another burpee before I could jump. So we'd have lost a jump effectively. So it's always change over after the jump. So we had the conversation as we were going through, like, how many jumps have you got left? Like, 1, 2, right, now I'm going to go in. Yeah,
that was our communication tool. It was like, just keep shouting, like, how many more you're going to do before you change over. And for us, it was 2, wasn't it? When we got knackered, you're like, right, I'll give you 2 more, then you're in. And you're absolutely right. What you don't want to do is jump forwards, do your burpee, stand up and then change. You want to jump forwards, you finish your spot, wait for your mate to come alongside you, or he'll hopefully already be alongside you at that point, and then he jumps back, basically. And Walter's drinking your water.
He is.
Your water's gone down.
I was wondering how long that was going to take.
So it was banging on the table, so I moved down there. Walter's had Dan's water. So the rowing machine, you can split this however you want. Again, your partner must stand behind the rowing machine at all times, but aside from that, like, again, it's like the skier, get your times nailed, have a plan for it and a strategy, and give it your best ready. Farmer's carry, again, pretty simple. One person carries both kettlebells as far as they can. When you want to change, you must place the kettlebells on the floor. You are not allowed to pass your kettlebells to your partner. And then they obviously pick the kettlebells up off the floor and pick up where you left off. Walking lunges, same rules apply as the singles. The bag can't touch the floor throughout the whole time. and now he's coming for a kiss on Brad.
Come on, Walter.
Walter's getting proper involved
He
today.
loves it, I know.
So the 20 kg bag must stay raised and elevated on someone's back at all times. We had like a little tactic for this that we went over early doors, but again, we'll go over the tactics and strategies shortly. Cool, I think that's it. You obviously, when you pass it over, you have to be in line or behind the person at the time. You can't kind of pass it forwards as you pass the bag over. And that's the last one, wall balls. As we mentioned, you have to wait until your partner's there. You can't start those wall balls too quickly. Everyone has to be in position. And what I mean by in position is one person has to have the wall ball ready to kind of throw. The other person has to be facing them underneath the rack and the rig, basically. And I found that I think I probably cost us. I'm not sure how much time, but I stood behind you for some reason. But I was just so used to standing behind you.
It'll only been a couple of seconds.
Yeah, exactly. So I stood behind you. She told me to go around, but my head was well and truly spinning by that point, wasn't it?
Yes.
And I think that's it. The only other rules, I guess, with the wall balls is, as usual, 90 degrees on your squat position, and the reps have to register on the counter above, and it has to hit that 100 before you finish. Yep.
Any no reps?
We got a few. I always get a few.
Yeah, I think I got 2, maybe 3, I think. Yeah. I got one was definitely from a throw, one was definitely from not squatting deep enough, and I think just in my last set, I think I got one from a throw again.
Yeah, so I think I got 2 or 3 no reps, which is, it's always agonising when you see that, because it's hard enough as it is without kind of missing the counter, but everything's just so wobbly at that point. Stability, legs have gone, shoulders are burning.
Yeah. But the judges are really good. They're really communicative. It's like, it's not an immediate, you've not gone low enough. It tends to be a, can you get lower? And if you say yes, but you then don't, then they'll no rep you. If you say yes and you go lower, then they're fine. They won't no rep you on any of it.
Cool. What I didn't notice actually was, because obviously when it's singles, you kind of just grab the ball and you go in and you're in this kind of world of pain by yourself. When you're stood facing the person, you can see they've got an iPad, haven't they? Yeah. And they can change the counter. So there's a counter that's above or just below the wall ball area. It tells you how many reps you're on. They have an iPad that can control that. So if you no rep because you go into, or you're not going to low enough, they can take reps off if they want to, which is quite sneaky. But the woman we had was really good. She was she kept asking me if I was all right, because Dan comes storming in. I stood in the wrong place about 5 times, and she's like, what is this donut doing? Eventually I got my position, and when I was in my position, I was just kind of hands on knees, not really kind of being able to see straight. And every time I looked up, she wasn't looking at Dan, she was looking at me going, are you okay? Are you all right? I said, yeah, I'm fine, don't worry.
Yeah, but it's quite good, because when you're stood under the rack, you can't see the screen. So I've got no idea where he was at. And I just went, can you just tell me what he's on? And she just turned her iPad around. I could just see the count slowly ticking up. That's good. So the second it hit 100, it was like, right, let's go. Let's go.
Yeah.
And I've just been jotting down a few questions as we've gone, just from a curious standpoint. So I've never done a Hyrox. This is really cool to sit here and listen. In terms of your experience, did you have any contingencies? Because from the way that my brain works from a management and organisational point of view, I want to know if one of you just were looking for a sick bin and it were like, what happens if your partner did just disappear? Did you discuss that, like worst case scenario?
Well, we saw someone being sick.
Yeah.
And I saw the partner as well, and the partner was kind of a bit like, we've kind of got to get off the track kind of thing. And the guy was being sick in quite an awkward position.
It was on a corner over a barrier.
It was on a bend where everyone was like, goes into the barrier, and he was just so he has to kind of go round the bend and then round him being sick, and hope he don't get his splash back as he's like bent over the barrier. And his mate was kind of just looking back, not really sure what to do, just hands in the air. But I get it. I've not really felt that sicky feeling until this time round, and I think it was that pre-workout.
Yeah.
He gave me a pre-workout, and I took it like just on a whim, like maybe 10 minutes before.
I think the difference is though, you don't have coffee regularly, do you, or anything like that? You're sort of like
I'm a monster man. Brad knows this. I get a monster meme every couple of days.
But we took 230 milligram caffeine pre-workout beforehand, which for me is just like a morning coffee. So it was like, let's get going sort of thing.
Yeah, I think I didn't feel it initially, but I think maybe halfway through got a bit of a churny feeling.
If I'm honest, I didn't get my nutrition quite right on the day. I think breakfast was fine, because we had breakfast about 4 hours before we went out. But it was in the hour beforehand, I should have just had something. But if I'm honest, I don't know why. I think I was just sort of getting pumped and ready, and I just didn't eat anything.
Yeah.
So I had the pre-workout then, sort of like 15 minutes or so before going out, but there was nothing else in my stomach. So I think that again is why I probably started to, other than the lactic acid and the skyrocketing heart rate early on, that was probably what sort of sent me sideways. But then by the rower, I managed to recover that, and it was like, right, come on, head down. Because the other side, we should say, is we got to the by the time we'd finished the rower and we were into the run after the rower, we were about halfway through. We were about 40 minutes, and we had 3 exercises and 3 runs left. And I sort of looked at him and I went, we can do sub 110. Sub 110 is in the bag. And he looked at me as if to say, are you fucking ridiculous?
Yeah, I just, for me, I don't always like knowing where we are.
Yeah.
Because I feel like if I know I'm doing well, I'll take my foot off the gas. And if I think we're behind, then I'll kind of just sack it off. And I did that a little bit on it happened on my first race, my first singles race, where I wanted about 150, I ended up with 170, and I went into the wall balls at about 112. So I knew I wasn't going to get 115. I knew they weren't going to happen in 3 minutes, and that really messed my head. But I was really happy. I was happy with my first showing. It just, I don't like knowing where we are. I just want to keep pushing as hard as I can, and my hardest is okay. I know it's as much as I can give. I won't be able to go any faster if I'm trying to chase a time.
Yeah.
Before we dive into things like fueling, travel, would you maybe recommend someone does a singles first to get a feel for it, or would dive straight in with doubles maybe? Does it depend on the person, would you say?
I think it depends on the person. Yeah. In an ideal world, I think we probably would have done a doubles first, to be honest, because I think that was maybe one of our goals, wasn't it, initially?
It was.
What was that? I can't actually remember now.
I think after we'd done the first singles, we said we wanted to try and do
a doubles.
We wanted to do a doubles.
Yeah,
we just couldn't get a doubles in Manchester,
Yeah.
so we did singles again in Manchester. But I think for me, going out and knowing that I can do one on my own. I mean, I'm 10 minutes behind him when I'm doing it on my own, but knowing that I can go out and do it on my own gives me the confidence that I know I can do it. I know I can get through it. So I know if we're going for a time in the doubles, then I can do it, basically. So it depends on the mentality of the person and what's their reason for doing it.
Do you know, I think it all comes down to whether you decide to do a singles or a doubles, it's your ability, if I'm being honest with you. I think if you are a little bit unsure about whether you'll be able to complete it or there's some nervousness around that, I think a doubles is a good shout. If you consider yourself relatively fit and you've done a lot of running before, I think just dive straight in with the singles. I really do. Why not?
Did you see any funky tactics? Do you see anyone almost, I don't know if this is allowed, but one person just surviving the runs and the other person just doing everything?
We didn't, because there's so many people on the course, you can't really work out who's with who. You just didn't see a lot of people running, and you kind of gauge, okay, those two are going quick, they're probably together. There's no real way of knowing who's with who.
No, there's not. But I think the other side of it is you're so focused in on what you've got to do, on getting through that run, getting to that next exercise, working as a team to get through it and get back out, that you don't really care what anyone else is doing unless they're in your way, sort of thing.
We had our first little tiff, didn't we?
We did.
On the course, Because the courteous thing to do is, and we do it a lot. If you're looking to get a good time, there's a fast lane on the inside, and you kind of want to stay out of that as much as possible if you're struggling. The issue is when it goes around corners, people cut into the kind of the fast lane to get a slightly better angle into the kind of next bend.
Yeah,
and the polite thing to do, which I have no problem with, is if someone shouts left, you kind of move over a little bit and you let them pass on your left. And I had a situation where it was a bit of a bend, and we were running relatively quicker, weren't we? Like we were running quicker than most people, so we cut in to kind of overtake people. And all of a sudden, some bloke behind me goes, "Fucking hell!" like this, and I just turned around, and I just lost my head. I was just like, there was no shout from him, nothing like. And if he shouted me, I'm more than happy to kind of move over. But you just can't come racing up behind people and expect them to know you're there. You've got to give them a shout. So, a few little choice words were thrown as well.
And I had one where I was actually overtaking probably a group of 5 or 6 people. And someone comes behind screaming left, and it's like, "That's wonderful, you screaming left, mate. I've got nowhere to go." And then he started having a go at me for not moving. So then, he got a few words back. So it's like, where do you want me to go? It's like, I'm trying to get past them to get out of the way. I'm not going to slow down and drop behind them because that's going to ruin what I'm doing.
Yeah.
So I get it, but it's
It's tricky on the course because Glasgow was particularly
very
narrow. It was. Whereas Birmingham, like I felt like we had all space in the world.
Birmingham was like a racetrack. It was great.
Yeah, it was really wide. Yeah, really wide.
Whereas, Glasgow was a bit more like a canal path at times.
Yeah, it was tricky.
Fair. You mentioned briefly there, Dan, about fueling, and Ryan's briefly mentioned in his first singles about the Stroop and Waffle incident. Was there any sign of repeat for that, or did we?
No.
Don't remind me.
No, I think night before was actually steak dinner, just steak and veg. Amazing. Really. So that was pretty good. Breakfast for me was like a bit of a cooked breakfast, but plenty of carbs, bit of honey in there. Sort of like I said, about 4 hours before, and just so that it wasn't sat on me. What I should have done is I'd sort of like a Rice Krispie square, something high sugar, fast. About an hour beforehand, and I didn't have that. And in hindsight, I felt that because the other thing when we come down to the fueling was I had 2 gels on me, and I didn't take. When I've done singles, I take the 2 gels. I have in my plan where I'm going to take them, and when you're doing double, it's so much faster paced that it was like I didn't even think to get the gel out of my pocket at that point and get it in. But also, it's like I could have done it when we were walking to the burpees, but I wasn't sure if Ryan was going to do 5, 10, 15 burpees. So it's like, how much time have I got? Because the last thing you then want to be is like trying to get a gel in you, and he's going, I'm done, sort of thing.
Yeah, we needed to have more of a tactic around when we're going to have our gels, because you've technically got more opportunity to have your gels in the doubles because you have got times where you're just doing nothing. The reason I don't really like taking the gels generally is because when I take them, it really messes my breathing up. I don't want to take it on the runs. Yeah, when I'm breathing, it's a bit like when if you've done like quite an intense 5-10k and you really feel yourself blowing, and then you've got a cough coming, and it all of a sudden just messes up your breathing, or like you just all of a sudden for the next 10-20 paces you're trying to recover that breath. That's tenfold with a gel because you're trying to get fluid down you don't want to choke on it, you're breathing lots of air in. It's just very logistically quite tricky when you're doing a singles. But I do think it's something I need to kind of use more, so I don't do what happened like in every event I've done really well. I've fallen apart a little bit on the wall balls. Yeah, no, I think the next one we've got is going to be interesting because we're actually doing the pros there. So it's all heavyweights, but they don't start till 8 o'clock at night. So it's the earliest start wave they've got. So sort of nutrition and fueling for that day is going to be quite important to sort of figure out what do we need to be taking when, so that we don't go out and fall apart or go out feeling heavy loaded stomach and end up throwing up on the first run sort of thing.
Do you think that'll change your training times maybe? If you know that next one's at 8 p.m, do you think you'll maybe try and train around that time, or is it just getting the work in?
Busy dads with work, you can't, we're not athletes. Like if you were an athlete, maybe, if you've got all the time in the world. If you were potentially someone who's got 5 till 8 p.m. to yourself to do nothing, maybe, there might be some recommendation there to go and do the evening style sessions, so you're used to that. But I think generally, it's just not doable for us.
I mean, I just get out and train whenever I can. I try and plan it in, but it's negotiation with my wife as for when I can. So like, a lot of the time it'll be first thing in the morning, but sometimes it's going to be 6-7 o'clock other times. I mean, you've seen me sending bits to you when I'm training at 11 o'clock at night because everyone's gone to bed and it's the only time I can get out to do something.
And if anyone is busy and they have kids, just rewind that last minute and just listen to that again, please. Can't stress that enough.
You've got to work out what's the right way for you to fit it into your life. And without being silly, sometimes it's going to be it is a big prioritization, and that for me is the key word. There are things that I would love to go and do, but I choose not to go and do them because I want to train. And it's all about that performance target of what we're trying to aim for. And it's like, well, I could go and do that, but actually I want to go and train because I want to get to this. And especially in that lead up, that sort of 3-4 weeks out before you're having a taper down as well, so for full recovery that's where it's key to focus and say, right, do you know what? No, I'm not going to go out to the pub with people. I'm going to go and train tonight instead.
Fair. What about you, Ryan, from a fueling point of view?
I've made all the mistakes you can imagine. First one, just because my first race was at 12:30, it was this tricky time because you're kind of heading towards lunchtime. So I'd have the usual breakfast. I had a bit of a snack, and I got to about 12 o'clock, half an hour before we raced, and I was so hungry. I'm really hungry, because I don't usually like eat a lot before I go and do something like that. So as you well know from last time, I smashed about 20 Stroop and Waffles. Now they were only like little Stroop and Waffles, but that just bloated me up. I felt, God, it was like, all sorts of weird feelings in that race. Second time was the Manchester one where I think I got it just right. It was a bit of an earlier time, 10:30, which for me was good. This 11:30 spot, I think for me was perfect. It meant you could have a bit of a mid to late breakfast, couple of snacks, and you're pretty much into it. Like it's at 11:30 for me on the open men's doubles was perfect.
And I suppose the next simple follow-up question to that is refueling. Did you have anything special lined up? Did you?
Well, I can tell you what I had.
I'll let you know. I'll let Dan go first because he had a right feast.
So I always have recovery bars in my bag anyway. So sort of like high carb recovery bars for straight afterwards. And then my wife was there, so she went and got me. They had like a little Chinese takeaway. That's one of the good things. I'd say Birmingham was at the NEC, so they just had basically the food bits that were at the NEC. Manchester, there was like a little cafe area, but at Glasgow they actually had like a massive other hall that was set up with tables and chairs and loads of like little restaurant-y like
food vendors,
food truck type things. Nice. So there was a Chinese takeaway one. So I had what was it, like sweet chili chicken type thing and chips. That was good. And then took a pizza in the car.
Nice.
And then we stopped at services and I had a load of KFC mini fillets and gravy. That was
I never like eating after a race. I just makes me. I'm just that sicky feeling. My stomach's churning. I need to settle. I don't think I ate a proper meal until about 3 hours after because we were in the car, weren't we, for 3 hours. That first stint.
And I also knew I was driving, so I needed to eat something before I was driving. So that was the main reason.
I had some snacks. I had a banana. I had some nuts.
Leftover donuts.
There was one leftover donut. Yeah, I had that. It was really hard as well. It started going a little bit stale. That still battered it. And then I think Alex had bought some mini eggs, hadn't she? So I had a few of those.
And boosts and stuff.
So it's post-workout nutrition. I think when you do these for the first time, anything goes. Like have whatever you want, kind of thing. But I think the more you do them, the more I've realised that like we've got Sheffield Half Marathon this weekend, so you can't just go above and beyond. I had a little KFC on the way home, and that was it. It was back on strategy now. So you've got to be quite careful if you've got other things lined up. It depends what else is in your week. If you know you're going to have a good month to like recover, not really do much, maybe you can get away with some shitty food. But yeah, to have a look at kind of your diary, I would say.
I think like just on food and fitness in general, we talked about this a little while back. It's like my outlook on it. Like after the first one, I'd been training for 6-8 months for Hyrox. I wanted to do a good time. I'd been really strict with my diet and this, and a lot of my mentality at that through that first one was I can't eat that because I'm going to do a Hyrox. And then afterwards we went out to a burger place and all the rest of it, and that was great. And I had pizzas over the weekend because I think that was on a Friday, wasn't it, the Birmingham race. And then I knew we were going into Manchester, the Manchester one, and I went into that with my entire sort of approach to my diet has changed in the intervening period, because whereas before it's like I've now got a time I'm trying to beat. So I've gone from looking at like what's left on the kids' plates and going, I can't eat that because it's going to put me over my calories too. I don't want that because it's not going to make me faster.
There's more of a reason behind it.
And a lot of my food choices now are not. They're not. I can't have something because I can have whatever I want. Let's be honest. Anybody can have whatever they want. I don't want it because it's not going to benefit me and what I want to do with my life and where I'm trying to get to. So, like. When we came out, it's like, yes, I had the stuff in Glasgow because I was hungry and I wanted it, but that's it. Now it's like literally yesterday back in, and I'm back onto my plan of this is what I'm having now because this is what's going to get me to where I want to be, and it's what's going to help me recover.
What a motto! It reminds me of the GB sailing overarching question that they use, which is, will it make the boat go faster? So every sort of decision that they have to make, they sort of say, okay, but will it make the boat go faster? Yeah. And if the answer's well, no, they don't do it. Or if it's maybe, it's like, well, maybe we try it and then we'll experiment. But if it's a definite no, you just don't do it.
Yeah. But this is the thing. It's like when it's your own personal business, it's like sometimes it's like, no, I don't. I do want that. It's not going to make me. It's not going to make me get faster. It's not going to help me hit that goal. But I do really want to eat. I do want that chocolate bar because I've not had chocolate in the last 6 weeks, and I really, really fancy it. But other times, especially when you're in there, it's like, no, do you know? I don't want it. It's not like there's a craving there or anything. I just don't want it because it's not going to support the goals I'm aiming for right now.
When that end goal is so big and you're working towards something that really means a lot to you, there isn't really a question of it.
No,
and I think people sometimes find that quite hard to distinguish, don't they? When you go somewhere and they say, oh, can you not have just one chocolate bar? Yeah, I could, and I might next week if I really want one. I'll have one, but right now I'm not feeling it. It'd be a waste of like my kind of time when I do have one because I'm not really feeling like I want it. And the end goal is just too strong.
That's it. And one big part for Glasgow is going into it is if it's not gonna help my performance, that means it's going to impact on Ryan's performance. Without being silly about this, so because we're a team here, so it's not just about me. It's as a team, how do I make sure I can allow us to go as fast as we can possibly go?
Yeah, and I think for you, knowing that you were going to have to do, you were going to have to put in a real shift to keep up. Yeah. I can see why that would be the case. Like if you know you're going to pair and you're the one that's maybe lesser of the ability, you have to, in your preparation, make decisions that are going to give you those 5-10%. They go a long way on race day. They really do. But look, it depends on like what your outlook is. Are you looking to go for time? Are you looking to really push it? Are you looking to do what we did? Or are you looking to just do it for fun? If it's just for fun, just to try it out, just go in with a smile. Don't worry too much about all this kind of minutiae, but it's there for the people that really want to push.
Yeah.
My organisational brain is dying to know about the travel, the logistics, and I appreciate that might not be the sexy topic that people want to hear and talk about, but that quite important for you boys?
It's the practical stuff, isn't it? It needs discussing, and I think we've always said that travelling down the day before is always the best option because it just means that you're not getting out of the car after several hours. Not several, but even if it's only 2 hours or an hour, sometimes that just sat in the car, festering a little bit, it can be tricky. You want to be on your feet, you want to be mobile, stretching. It takes time away from your performance.
Yeah. So we set off early, got up there for about 1-2 o'clock, had a wander around Glasgow, got a bit of lunch, just stretching the legs really more than anything. Yeah.
So we were racing on the Saturday. So on the Sunday at 11:30. We set off early on the Saturday at 7:30. Got there midday. And again, just had almost made like a little bit of a weekend of it. Went with some food that night. Got to bed. I say we got to bed early. I couldn't get to sleep, but you definitely.
I passed out. However, I would definitely say one thing above all else is check the date you book your hotel for.
Oh, right.
So I went to check in and turned out I'd booked for the night before.
Oh, no.
So I've had a lot going on and just completely messed my dates up. And so I was literally sat in the lobby with my wife going, I'm really sorry, and trying to find us a hotel. And luckily I found one just up the road that had a room and they gave us a free upgrade to a suite. So I was quite happy with that. So,
you didn't end up in Ryan's bath in his room.
There was a discussion, like, do we just give Ryan a shout, see if I crash on his floor or sleep in the car or something? But no, I managed to get one up the road, so it was all right. But yeah, I was asleep probably by 8:30.
It shocked me that because he's so organised as well. He's usually the man who's like got everything in place and sorted. Usually it's me, it's more likely to do something like that. But yeah, you were in the centre of Glasgow. I was a little bit close to the SEC. And I would say if you can get somewhere closer generally to the event, it does just save a little bit on the legs. I think I probably paid a bit more for it, but it was worth it for me. Probably the second thing that I really mention hotels wise is the 2 times that we've booked hotels to stay over, or I have anyway. I've just made sure that after the event I can get showered somewhere because they don't provide any showers at the event. Obviously our events are like 10:30, 11:30, 12:30. Checkout's at 11, isn't it? Which is right in the middle of all that. So you're not really getting the opportunity to get back, showered, changed before checkout time. So on our first one, there was a gym, and we were able to use the gym showers, weren't they, at the hotel. And on the second time, which was this time just gone, I basically had to twist the lady's arm like really badly. I really just had to say to her, like, checkout is at like 11, but can I be here at 1 having a shower? And she was like, she really wasn't happy about it. I was like, please, I'll be stinking in a 4.5 hour journey back to Sheffield from Glasgow. And she was like, yeah, okay, go on then. And she let me keep my stuff in the room, which was really nice. I knew that the next people weren't in there until 3 p.m. Didn't actually charge me like a late checkout fee anyway, which was good. All right, shall we do some discussions around strategy next? I guess the best thing is just to go through each exercise, let people know what we've done. We're definitely not saying this is the right thing to do, but maybe some tips on what we thought worked for us might potentially help you. So let's start right from the beginning, I guess. Running.
So I was going to say start from the start tunnel.
Okay.
So my reasoning for that is if you get quite a few people trying to get right up to the front of the start tunnel, it makes 0 difference because your race starts when you cross over the line. So if
the only difference it does make is if you want a fast start, then you can get congested a little bit in the pack. And I know that was probably the first time I've been at the start, but we were gunning for it a little bit, weren't we? We wanted to get away from the pack. But when I've been in my singles races and I've been mid-pack, it has been a little bit like, you set off quite slow because you're going to get people in front of you who are going different pace to you. So my suggestion, as much as I'd hate suggesting this, will be get to the front, because I know everyone's going to be at the front now. But I think if you want a fast time, definitely get to the front.
I think it's either right at the front or right at the back to give you then the ability to just sort of move around on the track rather than getting stuck in the group. Because that's what I did at Birmingham, was I actually was probably in the back third.
Right.
And then as we got onto the track, I was able to just go round the slower people rather than trying to fight in and amongst them.
That's a good idea. Yeah, because you can't get out the pack once you're in it. Okay.
From doing like 10Ks and half marathons in the past, I find that really motivating. Soul chasing a little bit, like overtaking. It's like, I've got this.
I think running, our tactic will just set off pretty quick, see what we can manage between us, see kind of how the pacing goes, and I don't think there's any issues there too much.
My tactic was just chase Ryan as quickly as my legs will take me.
My goal is just don't leave Dan behind too much, but say enough in front of him that he's kind of challenged. Ski erg then, so we obviously went away and did our own testing, which I strongly recommend. We found kind of what damper setting works best for us individually in our singles races. We found then what worked together in terms of timeframes of changing over. We found that over 250 metres was our most powerful and best stint. So we decided to go 250 metres each time. Definitely have a bit of an idea of who's going to go first after each run, whether it's the same in every exercise or whether you want to change it. This definitely changed for us as we went through the race. So Dan found that as the runs went by and he got more kilometres under his belt, there was more fatigue. So you didn't want to come out of a kilometre after chasing me, have to go straight in. It then turned out it was more beneficial for me to kind of go first, give Dan a bit of a rest. And if that has to change mid-race, that's fine. But have a bit of an idea who's going to go first and last, I would say.
Yeah. But be prepared to adapt and change it depending on how each of you's feeling.
Because I'd say 90% of the time that's going to be the case. On something you have to adapt it. Yeah.
Definitely.
Sled push then. So our tactic was nice and simple. Just one length each, wasn't it?
Yeah, just push as hard as you can, and then have your rest on the way back. The only thing I would say is, if you have done singles, don't think that the person pushing it back is going to give you the same amount of rest you would take yourself. Because it's not. It's a lot faster.
Yeah. It depends how much that person pushes. You do get a lot of people changing. I think most people probably change like mid. They might do like a quarter each. So maybe if that's the case, just kind of move out the way pretty quick. The changeover speed is going to be something that you consider as well. Like you don't be dawdling too much. Sled pull, again, we will just grip and rip, stand there, get it in as quick as you can. I think the only thing I would recommend there is just if you are someone who's going to pull with the legs, make sure your partner, who is outside the box, just gives you a little tap on the shoulder when they're getting close towards the box, because that's sometimes worst case scenario. You don't want to be costing yourself time because you're stepping over the line. Having actually someone there as a barrier with the hand out can be really important.
When you said pull with the legs, just for laymen like me, is that moving forward with it and pulling and sort of stepping back as you pull?
So on the sled pull, you go to the front of your box, you grip it with both hands. You can kind of either squat down, pull up, and then start walking back. Or you can just grab it and just start walking. Or you can do a combination of all three, where you kind of squat, walk, and pull. That's what we were doing initially on the singles.
You sort of need to pull as much slack out that rope as you can, get down into a good sort of squat position, and just sort of stand up and lean back as you go. You just use your body weight to pull the sled through, and then, like Ryan says,
but I appreciate that. Not everyone's got the strength in the arms to do it. So if you have to walk, be very careful about how much time you're taking. And I think don't be too proud to say, I'm really struggling here. If it's going to be faster for the benefit of the team, pass that exercise on for sure. Definitely. Next one is burpee broad jumps. So we didn't really have much of a tactic here. It was just go until you can't do any more. Whether that's beneficial or not, I don't know. Sometimes it's an argument that if you go to fatigue, you're not going to recover in time. Maybe a better approach might be right, you do 10, I do 10, you do 10, I do 10. But then it depends on who's the stronger burpee person, because if there's a person who's stronger on burpees and can do more, they're not kind of getting the best out of that exercise. They're not pushing you on as quick as possible. So we did it pretty well in terms of go for as long as you can.
Yeah.
Maybe don't go to extreme fatigue, but when you're not far off, give your mate a 2 count.
Yeah.
Do 2 more reps and then pass it on.
Yeah, I think you probably did about 2/3 of the burpees to me as well, thereabouts.
When you're doing them though, it's really hard to know because you head down and you're not really sure how far you've gone. You just kind of you're cracking on, but what's the one after that? Rowing machine again. It's an erg. Make sure you've got away, you practiced, you've got your kind of times down. You know when you're going to change. We discovered that 3:30 each for us was pretty much spot on. So that's what we stuck with. As much as Dan tried to scupper those plans and put a shift in on there. What's after that? It's the Farmers Carry. That's right. Yes. Yeah. So nice and simple. 200 meters. We split it into 100 meters each. Yeah. Normally on the 200 meter Farmers Carry, there's a bit of a track, isn't there, where you do 2 loops of something. Just know, number one, how many loops you've done for God's sake, and make sure that you're giving your mate a shout when you want to change. Because the last thing you want to do is dump them. Him not be ready, or him because you're running as well, you're walking behind each other. If you suddenly put them down, he's going to send you arse over tits. You know what I mean?
Well, he picked up, set off, and I'm there jogging away after him, thinking this is not a rest sort of thing. and then it's like he put them down, I picked them up, and I just went. You just get them, you just go as quick as you can. It's just grip and rip, just get around that 100 meters. So I think then you ended up jogging along behind me as well. So it's a funny one.
I thought on the walking on the Farmers Carry, it'd be a bit of rest, but it's not, because if your mate's jogging, you're basically jogging as well, and he was going surprisingly quick. So that was our tactic. I guess there wasn't really too much. I mean, the only thing there is don't spend too much time putting chalk on your hands. I made that mistake in my first race, and saw an inch and took a mile. And then the final one, so the next one is walking lunges, and then we're into wall balls. So walking lunges, we had quite a good tactic for this in terms of the changeover. Yeah. I think this is one that you can royally fuck up if you're not careful in terms of, number one, dropping the bag, because when you're 6k in or 7k in by that point, your legs are a bit wobbly. Done a lot of other exercises. It's very difficult to pass a 20 kilo bag over to your mate without dropping it. So you've got to have some tactic here. And fortunately, I must be talking half an hour before the race started. I was just on Instagram having a final scroll, and I saw someone pull up on the walking lunges, and I saw their changeover tactic. And what they did was, usually what you do is you stand behind your partner. So let's say you're stood in front of me, you're facing the other way. If it's on your back, you lift it up, your mate takes it off over, and then you put it onto the back. And that in itself is quite an inefficient way of changing it over. There's a lot of I lift it up, I'm waiting for Dan to grab it, he's then got to put it over his back, get it on, secure it. Again, a lot of chances things can go wrong. Yeah. So what we did was, I just jammed the top of my head into Dan's back, so maybe around where his shoulder blades were. That kind of then left the bag to fall down onto my neck, onto my back, and then he moved out the way and we just went straight on. It was a really it was really pit and stop style changeover it was, and it worked really well.
And I love a walking lunge, so
I sent some lies in there with that one.
I mean, that is diabolical, by the way, keeping walking lunges second to last. That is
just those two as a finisher. Lunges into wall balls is not great.
It's hard. It's hard. Look, the first time I did walking lunges, my legs cramped to the point where I was trying to finish them without straightening my leg, because if I straightened it locked out. So second time in Manchester, it wasn't anything like as bad, and then Glasgow was sort of fine. Just get through them.
And then went to the final one, which is wall balls. What was our tactic here? We didn't really have one, did we? It wasn't what was something
just get in and get them done between you. Just go until you need to change. Really.
Yeah, I think that's probably the best approach. Just whoever's I think a really good conversation before you head into the wall balls about who's feeling the least knackered.
Yeah. But it was on that last lap that we had where I could see that you were starting to struggle a bit. So I was like, right, I'm just going to go in. I'm going to get whatever I can done. It could be 10, could be 15, could be 20. But it gives Ryan that break, because I know that when he's got a bit of air back in his lungs, he's just going to sit there and go doing wall balls sort of thing. So he's like, right, what can I get in and do and get done to give you that break, so that then you can do your thing. Yeah,
it massively helped me out, that, mate. Like I said at the start, you were a knight in shining armour coming, gliding past me in those last on that last lap, and for you to kind of go in there, get the wall balls and start cracking on was such a lifesaver for me. But I think it typifies what a doubles race is about. That it's helping each other out when you need it most, and there's going to be moments when no one can help each other out because you're both in a pickle. There's going to be moments when I can really help you out, and vice versa. And I definitely needed that for sure. And it just meant that I think you got about 12 on your first go, didn't you?
Yeah,
but that small, that really small rest for me during that set of 12 meant that I then could get it up to 50.
Yeah.
And then I could have a rest. You could crack on for as long as you need. Then I finished off. So we split it into quarters basically. But it didn't. It was such a lifesaver because I've always struggled on wall balls. But we've also been practicing that a lot. We've been doing the 9K for 100. So reps have been there.
Amazing. Honestly, I've learned loads already. Yeah.
Just a few other things I guess that people need to know.
Yeah.
Number one, when it comes to the registration of the athletes, you don't need to sign in together. You can do it separately.
Yes.
If I learnt this as well, so I was near with the SEC. So before the day before, I went twice. I went when we got there, and I went the evening of. And what I found was, if you've got a QR code for your event the next day, you can get a spectator band based on that. So that's really worth knowing. If you're there early, you don't have to buy a spectator band if you're competing. Your spectator band can be spectator's band if you've already got it and you want to watch events after your race. If you want to watch events before your race, you can actually go with your QR code and they'll give you a spectator. So that's really worth knowing. I think aside from that, there's probably not much more that I want to cover. I think that's pretty much all my notes.
I think the other one I was going to say was rock zone time. So the time where you come off the track before you get into your exercise is part of your race. And the number of people you see come through that and slow down and start walking and go and get a glass of water and stuff. It's like, I think I turned around to Ryan after the third exercise and went, I have to get water the next time we come through. It doesn't mean we're stopping. I'll grab it and I'll run. I just need to get something into my mouth because I don't know what it is with the Hyrox, but when you're 2 exercises in, all the fluid in your body just goes somewhere else and your mouth just dries out like there's no tomorrow.
I think I said this to you at the end, but when you're feeling particularly sick, your body will take fluid from certain areas to pump into your stomach because it knows there's a chance here things might have to come up. So feeling sick is something you want to avoid from like a hydration point of view. But it's not a big issue. What they tend to do in the rock zones is they'll have these water stations and they'll pour it's literally like the smallest shot into the bottom of a cup. Just so you can shot it, basically, because no one's wanting to be pouring big full glasses down the neck.
No, but if you do try and drink it while you're running, you will cover yourself in it.
Yeah, absolutely. I've got a funny story for you. I completely forgot to tell you. So I only remembered it last night, actually, when I was with a client and we were talking about like the farmer's carry. So when we finished the farmer's carry, you finished, didn't you?
Yeah.
So you went and put it back in and you were a little bit ahead of me. And I wasn't really looking where I was going. And as you were putting him down, I just felt myself kick something. I was like, what was that? And I heard a bloke go, whoa! And as I kind of turned around as I passed him, I'd kicked a cup. He put his cup down next to the chalk. He was chalking himself up, and I kicked his cup, and it got all over him. And he was now covered in like this chalky, like white pasty mess because he's been covered in water. But luckily, I don't think I opened it hit him with the cup.
No. But in saying that, one thing I did actually notice, which is I will remember for future, is if you grab a cup of water on your way through, like if you're going into the rower, you can actually take it in with you and put it on the floor next to the rower. So if you're doing doubles, you will have a chance you can grab one on the way through and have a chance to drink it.
If you're taking water glasses round on the course, you're like, it serves you right again, it kicks in your face. Do you know what I mean? But I'll be trying to look where I'm going next time and not cover people in water. Anything else that anyone wanted to add on to the Hyrox Doubles Ultimate Guide?
Any regrets from you boys? Anything you wish you'd done better?
No. I left nothing on the table.
Cool.
Yeah. I think 100%. That's why, I could say proudest coach out there just watching this man go around. It really was amazing. And no regrets from me. I just think now it's time to potentially get those times down a little bit, as you always do. Not sure how we're going to do that on the exercises. I think it's the runs now that we need to kind of improve on. I think just ending with that, really. I think running is 50% of this race. So if you're going to get better at anything, get better at running. Yeah,
for
sure.
Love that. Yeah, no, lads, it's been really insightful. I think you've both done amazingly well. You've smashed your time, haven't you? So, on to the next one.
Sub 60, can we do it?
No, I don't think we're going to do that in a pro. We can try, but I don't think that's going to happen
No,
in
we'll
the
happen
pros.
in our next one, that's for sure. But maybe on another men's open doubles, we'll see. But 105.36 weren't we?
Yeah,
I think.
105.36, which is 17 minutes faster than I was in Manchester and 25 minutes faster than I was in Birmingham.
It's crazy.
Wow.
It's crazy. Just shows how far the running's come on anything else. Yeah,
Mm.
for sure. So, roll on London. That's our next one. 6 weeks' time. And, if we can get anywhere near that, Christ, that'd be a miracle, I would say.
Yeah.
We're kind of just doing it to see where we're at. Just testing it out for some fun.
Yeah, just to see what the weights are like as well, because like a lot of you look at the lunges. I mean, I'm training with a 30 kilo sandbag anyway, but it is in the heat of battle. It's 50% of the weight again on the lunge, so it's going to make a difference.
Yeah, absolutely.
Love that. Just to really encourage people now that if you've listened to this and you think, do you know what, I fancy that now, just please share this with someone who you maybe want to do a doubles with. I think that's probably a nice way to sign off today.
Absolutely. Anything else to add?
No, nothing.
Dan, thank you for coming on. Awesome, mate. Brad, thanks
Well done,
as always. Guys, thank you for joining us on the Fit Dads podcast. We'll see you next one.
See you soon.